Welcome to The Missing Link, a podcast where crypto and insurance come together. I'm Dan Roberts, and my co-host is Danielle Wall-Elliott. Whether you're in crypto, traditional finance, or in need of a new podcast, The Missing Link will help you explore the vital role that insurance plays in crypto and how blockchain will disrupt insurance. Join us on our journey to find the missing link. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Welcome to the Missing Link podcast. I am Dan Roberts, CEO of Names. I'm joined by COO Danielle. We are kicking off this podcast not because we thought there weren't enough podcasts in the world, but more because there weren't enough podcasts on crypto and insurance, a growing area in our beloved crypto space that we wanted to shine light on, particularly over the profound, interesting new projects coming out in the space. So we thought, as Names is building a digital insurance marketplace, that we could spotlight some of those marketplace participants, educate the insurance space as to what blockchain and crypto and new risks are emerging from that space. But also educate the crypto space in how insurance can play a role and what the traditional insurance landscape are doing to engage with this new environment. I am also co-founder at Names. I kicked the project off about 3.5 years ago with my co-founder, Ted Theodore Georgas, our CTO. And then over the last couple of years, we've been very grateful and lucky to bring in some excellent minds, both in crypto and insurance, one of which is very much my co-host, Missing Link co-host, Danielle Wall. So great to have you here, Danielle. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be starting this podcast, The Missing Link. We have realized it's not so easy to describe, what it is that we're doing at Names in these elevator pitches or short clips. So really digging in here and able to, discuss how or why crypto needs insurance, and also the inverse, why insurance, can benefit from blockchain technology. My background is in crypto. I worked at a crypto exchange, Shapeshift, for 6 years before joining Names. I've been at Names for a year now, and we're really focused on becoming a scalable, mature product at this point. The team has done so much foundation work and laid the groundwork for us to become successful. So we're right there at about to launch our product, and really, we'll dig into how crypto can really benefit from insurance and promote the mass adoption of crypto.
For sure, no pressure for our upcoming launch. Excited to, like I say, be showcasing some of our early partners that are running these kind of early adopter programs and different types of risk, and we'll certainly get there. Before we move forward, we wanted to give a major notable mention to our podcast partner, Mana Search. They have a really interesting, exciting podcast called Searching for Mana. They've had some great minds on that over the years. I think season 5 is soon to kick off or has just kicked off. So we'll make sure to point people in that direction. This Missing Link podcast is being hosted within that podcast network. So we're excited to be working with them on this production, if that's what we can call it. Speaking
of major partners. Yeah. And Mana Search does so much for us as well in terms of helping build that scalable and growing global team that we talked about.
That's right. Yeah. Mana Search are our dedicated search firm, focused really on that crypto space, key roles across the whole spectrum of positions. So they've been a huge support with us on that side, and we're excited to run through this podcast with them.
They find the best people, and I'm not just saying that because they found me.
Yeah, they didn't find me, so that's probably saying something.
Well, I think, one of the things that we want to do each time on each episode is ask our guest, where do they sit in the crypto landscape and the insurance landscape? So I think we should start by asking ourselves that. So, Dan, I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rank your insurance knowledge?
Well, insurance, as you know, is a very broad space. I'm not going to claim to be a high number across the whole space, but I think in, a particular area, and growing in collateralized reinsurance and ILS and some of these early programs that are coming through, that marketplace Lloyd's structure, I'll put myself at a 8.
Yeah. And what about crypto knowledge?
Crypto, I've been in for a bit longer, not so much on the technical side, more conceptually how the business model of decentralization can be applied to different verticals. But there's a lot of incredibly smart minds. I think that'll set me at a more humble 7.3. That's me. What about yourself on the insurance side of things?
Yeah, the insurance piece, it's so broad, and it's a huge industry. I mean, we've gone to a few conferences this year, and that's definitely, made me feel more confident in my skills. But I think I've, been pretty isolated in this idea of crypto insurance and just, insure tech in general. So I'm going to go with a 6 for insurance. I hope that, by the end of this podcast, I'm like way up there. Higher.
Right, as well as our listeners.
Yeah.
And how about for crypto?
Crypto, I'm going to go with a strong 9. Crypto has been not only, my career for the past, 7 years. I started in 2014 as my hobby, is just something I was super passionate about. I have this strong passion that decentralization is going to allow us to take power away from, governments and institutions, corporations and banks, and return that back to individuals. It allows us to work so closely together as just peers, and creating this global economy. So, I have the experience working in it. I have the experience just daydreaming about it and what it could be. And I'm really looking forward to the future.
Yeah, I remember you coming into the team and you'd had 5 or 6 years at Shapeshift, and we were also hiring for insurance roles, and people who had spent 20 years in insurance roles were not considered dinosaurs, whereas you in a crypto role for 5 years were considered a dinosaur. So you certainly have more.
That's because more crypto years are dog years. So really, I've been in the industry for 30 plus years.
35, 40 years. Exactly. And we've certainly benefited from that. Very cool.
Yes. And I think, the next place for us to really go is, why are we starting this podcast? We touched on it at the beginning there, but what is the missing link, and why does insurance need crypto? Or I guess that's the other way around. Why does crypto need insurance? I mean, it goes both ways, really.
It does. I think that's the whole point, is there is a really exciting opportunity in providing new methods of risk transfer and asset protection for digital assets, and all the accompanying risks that the space is seeing. And we all know we're seeing lots of insurable events that are uninsured. When I first started diving into the research about 4 years ago, it was a varied statistic of around 1% insured. And that number doesn't seem to have increased all that much when you still see not just the overall amount of assets, but all the different types of risks that are being demanded by the space. And there have been a huge plethora of solutions that have come into the market. I think Nexus Mutual is definitely a notable mention that kind of paved the way for just the concept of insurance being required and being applicable to decentralized finance. And since then, there's been, a real burst of activity with lots of different business models, which has been so exciting. There's been decentralized insurance protocols or insurance mutuals, where they can use token to monitor and allow governance and various different other pieces. There's been a growth of brokers that are looking to place different types of risk, underwriters that are looking to understand the risk. And for us, Names is being built to bring all of that activity into a single environment so that these programs can collaborate, they can compete, and the maturity of the overall space can grow. So that's the first side, is the insurance for digital assets, which is kind of where we started. And it was started on the basis of saying assets need to match liabilities. We need to be able to grow Bitcoin capacity to cover Bitcoin risk. And we need to be able to grow Ether capacity to cover Ether risk. But when you start to say, well, we can, through that same methodology, grow stablecoin capacity, so pegged to the dollar, to cover dollar-denominated risk, that could be helpful for the crypto space, particularly in areas like directors and officers cover, where they need to pay legal fees, etc., in dollars. But it really says, well, perhaps what is built for the crypto space through smart contracts, tokenization, all of these things that we'll get to in depth throughout the podcast, how can they be applied to the wider, more traditional insurance landscape? It's all dollar-denominated, crypto-native protection, and perhaps this new technology, Web3, can bring both the transfer of information and the transfer of value into one solution for catastrophe and beyond. And so that for me is exciting, is to not just showcase the amazing players in the space doing some fascinating things, but also showcase how the technology can inspire new innovations, and who knows beyond that.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about us being truly crypto native, working in the treasury management at Shapeshift, we would talk to custodians and they would have these policies, and they sounded large. They $50 million, $100 million, and then when you really would think about it, that was all that they had for everything that was on their platform. And so really, it wouldn't go as deep if they really had a major event happen, as well as if the price doubled or tripled, which we know can happen in crypto pretty easily. So I think that finding this balance of having true access to crypto native insurance policies is going to really change the way that these custodians can operate, and really make those of us that need custodians feel more confident and secure in using them.
Yeah, and I think another piece is how appropriate regulation feeds in. I know all of the crypto space and a lot of people beyond that have been following the news of FTX recently, how regulation perhaps did or didn't play a role there. And so, for us, insurance is a heavy regulated space, and, we want to play within those appropriate parameters with the right regulators. Names is regulated over in Bermuda, under the Bermuda Monetary Authority. And so it's, interesting just to pull in these various different pieces of the puzzle that are all going through their own progress. And, for us at Names, providing a space under that regulatory clarity for other partners to come and build interesting products for crypto and beyond is really rewarding. I'm intrigued.
Using smart contracts and, using these decentralized tools to allow us to do that.
That's right. And, that's why the education piece is so important for us. Is, insurance people don't understand crypto necessarily, but are certainly becoming more curious, and, vice versa. And we want to, use this podcast as that missing link in between, perhaps. Perhaps it has lots of meanings. And so, go on.
Well, I was going to say the other, major piece for me that I think is a win for the crypto world, and bringing in this insurance marketplace, is real yields, real sustainable yields that, people can achieve with putting their crypto, up as collateral or, capital for some of these reinsurance programs. And so, I remember last year we were really thinking like, gosh, how are we going to compete with 19% yields?
19,000%, wasn't it? Oh, well.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of this yield farming in the crypto space and people just jumping from project to project. But what we need in the space is something that's actually real and sustainable. And so, with our insurance marketplace, we'll be able to provide opportunities for people to actually earn real yield and uncorrelated the market yield, which is a whole other, basket.
Yeah, exactly. So much to discuss and so little time. The real world use case, I think, is key. It's not just a real world use case for the investors, but it's a real world use case for the technology. And that's not to say that there aren't real world use cases for the technology. There are some absolutely incredible projects out there that are capturing the minds of, let's say, traditional finance folk, and beyond, in the art world and so on. And so it's just adding to that is insurance and risk transfer, and that whole world has a real utility for projects and individuals and investors that can allow liquidity, money to flow, and I think putting those pieces all together and introducing it to the space is something we're excited about. You mentioned the uncorrelated piece. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, well, my favorite example that we use is the hurricane. So if you have $100 million worth of, hurricane insurance, that insurance company is going to want to get reinsurance so they don't leave that liability on their balance sheet. And, that hurricane doesn't care what the stock market's doing. It doesn't care what interest rates are. It doesn't care what the price of Bitcoin is. It's going to be completely outside of the rest of your portfolio. And so we know that diversification is key for, a solid portfolio.
Yeah, right. And so that's really us looking to introduce insurance as an asset class to the space. And that's, one of the powerful things about tokenization is you can, create a simple tool for holding value and trading value. And
sometimes illiquid assets, the tokenization of illiquid assets, I think that's going to be one of my predictions for 2023 is that's going to be a huge, even bigger topic. Obviously, people are already talking about it, but I think we're just going to see tokenization be key next year.
Absolutely.
And really take it that step further. Why does insurance need crypto? Anytime you put something on chain, it makes it more transparent. You can trust code rather than trust humans. And hopefully we can make this process of, the market of insurance a bit more efficient and clear.
Yeah. And it's not, when I talk about information and value, it's not just the transfer of those pieces. You also have the regulatory responsibilities, the legal nuances that get roped into people holding very different amounts of value. So, the regulator piece for me, just to bring up the FTX idea again, is that I think there's an interesting opportunity for projects to not self-regulate to replace their own external regulation, but to show that, something like proof of reserves, for example, is becoming more talked about within these exchanges, is saying that if you're able to, in real time, assess how a protocol or a marketplace or an exchange is operating behind the scenes, why not use that to show the public that information so that they can have trust in what you're doing, but also feed that into your periodic reporting to regulators so that they have an easy time of it. And you can see the way that this works in the traditional world when you go through a regulatory process is that there are questions or requirements that actually are moot points now because of the way that the technology works. And so I'm interested, when we talk about what's coming up for next year, and would love to hear your thoughts as well, is to see more projects, and we're certainly wanting to be one of those, that can make regulators' lives easier when it comes to automatic reporting. So yeah, lots to come.
Everyone's lives easier. That's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, on that thought, do you have any interesting themes throughout next year? I know we're looking to interview some really interesting characters that have been in the space for a while and certainly aren't going anywhere. What do you see as some key talking points for next year?
Yeah, I think just finding the balance. The industry needs to recover from this large black eye that we suffered from the FTX debacle, as well as, Terra, Terra breaking its peg. So I think I think next year will be about rebirth, growth. They say you build in bear markets. And so, that's what we're doing. I think that's what the industry is doing. Some other predictions, I think we'll see, mergers and acquisitions being much higher. We'll see some projects fail, of course. But yeah, if the people out there really believe in that, transparent, trusted, tradable lifestyle, I guess, that we're building, just keep building and we will get to another top again. We will survive this. So yeah,
we're all going to make it, right?
Yeah, we're all going to make it.
Well, yeah, no small task.
Yeah.
So no pressure. But as our listeners will hopefully hear, there's some amazing folk and amazing minds that are working on these big problems, and we're very grateful and humbled to be speaking to them. So definitely keep an eye out and an ear out for the episodes that will be coming out throughout this year. Another final big thank you and shout out to our podcast partners, Searching for Mana by Mana Search. And yeah, really just excited to put a bright spotlight on some of the best solutions that are bringing insurance to crypto and crypto to insurance. And very grateful to be doing it with you, Danielle.
That's right. Let's go. Episode 0 down, the missing link.
Done.
We're one step closer to finding the missing link. If you enjoy our show, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to come back next month. Until then, we are the missing link.